In the desert, along the spindly bit where the scrub meets the mountains, in places where you don't expect people to be, there, they watch you pass. To both of us, it must feel as if we are in each other's dream. One spring morning in 1997, at the Pagoda in Battersea Park, my first motorcycle record-breaking ride started. Around me were my sponsors and a lot of people from the newspapers, and there was a giant ramp down which I was supposed to ride. I said goodbye to my then girlfriend, then off I rode on my Daytona 900, my first record-breaking ride around the world, and in 31 days. I carried no tools except a wheel spanner and no spare parts other than a chain. I took as little equipment as possible, which was about as much as I thought I needed, although I would have been better prepared with more. Throughout my life, there was always a journey to be done. In Prudhoe Bay in Alaska, I have an inauspicious start. I asked the receptionist at the hotel to write on the back of a postcard that I'm there as a witness report and that I'm leaving to ride the length of the Americas. Where, she asks? Oh, it doesn't matter, I say, and just leave quietly. No one else notices me, and before long, I'm heading towards the Dalton highway. The Arctic Ocean looks uninviting, but against the backdrop of the oil industry, it is cleaner than this very grubby but extremely friendly town. I'm now leaving Prudhoe Bay. It's 9:05, 21st of August, and I'm just by the Arctic Ocean, and I'm just about to leave. The journey starts, so here we go, all the way to Ushuaia. Yeah, it's quite exciting. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a good ride. And all of a sudden, the weather's just suddenly turned nice. It's great. All the clag's gone, all the low-lying cloud. I've actually got the best day you could possibly have to leave Prudhoe Bay, which honestly is a bit of good fortune. This journey down from Prudhoe to Ushuaia was my 6th big journey on an R1, and the only limiting feature of what is otherwise a superb machine is the tank capacity. But this is overcome with a small can of fuel I have to carry on the back. I'd crossed deserts many times before, but the Nubian desert was the one I knew best. In June 2008, I created the project Parallel World, during which I biked alone across the Nubia and in the heat of the summer. Revisiting the Nubia, you merge time, which has stood still all these years, because out there, between the horizon and where you stand, nothing, not a stone nor a bluff, has changed. Only the ambient temperature, which builds steadily all morning. When I ride my bike, I feel like an actor who has memorised a script. And how would it be if what I saw only existed when I looked? There are always people waving, and when I turn again, they're gone. I'd already forgotten it, and in my narrow world of intents and purposes, they really were no longer there. As performers, we have a duty not to whistle-blow the whole charade of what it means to be who we really are. There is a reward for really convincing acts, you know, which would otherwise get lost in a soup of misunderstood reality.
This is the Arctic Circle at 66.33 degrees latitude north. Now I've done 319 miles since Prudhoe Bay in the first 9 hours of day one, and I've got 194 miles to go to Fairbanks, so as long as I don't get swiped off my bike by a big bear or run over by a moose, we'll be alright, won't we?
Places along the Dalton Highway include iconic names from the days of the ice road truckers: Finger Mountain, Prospect Creek, the Brooks Range, and here, the famous Beaver Slide. My journeys have happened over the last 30 years, and my motorcycling since I was a boy, well, it's a lifetime thing. Motorcycling and more motorcycling. The feeling never goes away.
think it's times like this, and I wish I had the words to express myself better, to convey the kind of beauty that I'm seeing, you know, to communicate it. Maybe you just have to cue the music.
Anatomy of an adventurer. What does it mean? Well, adventuring has always been my job, and in the beginning of my journeying, because everything was new, there was little dissection. I just set off and went. But some men who develop ideas do so until they look so impossible they get discouraged, and that's a bad place to go. If you want to be an adventurer, you should have an idea to start off, even if it's a vague idea. I like the vagueness of a plan. It's less intimidating. You just know you need to go, and that a journey awaits you, and beautiful things are there to be seen. Three weeks before I met my first wife, I'd stopped seeing a psychologist. It had never been on a professional level, but she was an interesting woman. At first you could say I needed a therapy, but by the time the relationship ended, she'd booked herself into a course with her own local shrink. I wonder why. So I needed somewhere to live, so thought about getting a narrowboat. I'd had an idea to sail a pair of narrowboats to Russia, or at least to the Black Sea, and I'd call it the longest narrowboat journey in the world. One thing I knew about the adventure business is that you're only as good as your last show. My dad taught me never to give up, so I didn't. 4 times around the world on an R1, and not a single problem ever, until now, when I had the small thing of a starter motor not wanting to work. But hey, the bike could have got me home.
Yeah, the codes that have been thrown up at the moment are code 12, which is the crank positioning sensor, but they've isolated it not to be that, in fact.
That's where they came up with the idea that it was the C's starter motor.
Now, they haven't got any in Canada.
And they can't replace it because they've got nothing to replace it with.
So I phoned Tim at Wright's in Salt Lake City, and they're trying to find one for me now.
Hence the need to ride down to Salt Lake City.
This is a record-breaking ride of the Americas, and I don't want to muck around with a time that could easily be beaten. I welcome the challenge, especially as I'm riding so well. Never felt faster and smoother. And my skill set since my first attempt in 1996 is so much better. It would be a catastrophe to stop now. The Dalton Highway is no worse than the Didagagaloo Desert in northern Kenya, or the Nubian itself, so there's nothing I've not experienced before. I was on my way to Salt Lake City, when normally I would have passed by Las Vegas, a city I first saw in 1999. Wright's motorcycle parts in Salt Lake City have looked after me for years. Whenever I pass through the USA on a journey, they service my bike. The man responsible for this is the service manager, Tim Gallagher, and what his team do not know about motorcycles is simply not worth knowing.
Tim, how rare is it for a starter motor to go?
I don't think very rare. They're back testing the one they just pulled off to see if that was the problem. And we're hoping that that is the problem. I'd like to introduce you to Mark Lundgren. He came down to help us out. He was instrumental in getting your starter for your bike.
Special thanks to Stedman's Recreation.
Yeah. We got Charlie over there, Charlie Sharp, Nick Sanders. Curtis Churchtown came down to volunteer. Nick Sanders.
Hey, Nick.
Joe Linza. Junior, he came in to help. He's been on board with the project. As soon as I asked him 2 weeks ago to help, Joe was on board, Mark was on board, Charlie, Curtis. This guy is the guy you need to know. This is David. He is the best mechanic I have ever seen in my life. This guy right here has it together. He is awesome. Dave Tag.
Thank you.
Nick Sanders.
Adventure is a way of being as much as a place. It's a mindset whereby anything you do and anywhere you go can be interesting. And in 2008, I tried my hand once again at adventuring in my own country, or a country next to my own country. That's the Pass of the Cattle on their way to Applecross, Western Highlands of Scotland. And you know, on a good day, this is not just one of the best roads in the UK, it's got to be one of the best roads in the world. Well, I've just done 800, just under over 800 miles from Salt Lake City to the outskirts of Tucson. And I feel great, actually. You know, I can't quite believe why I'm feeling so strong. I think it's because in the early days I used to trash myself and hang on. But I've learnt now to just pace myself a little bit and, you know, ride 800 miles in 16 hours and then try and get some sleep. It seems to work better. I feel better for it. Well, I'm on for a 20.5-day record at the moment, so let's see how long it lasts. I know there was an English couple who rode a GS and they did it in 34 days and they got the Guinness World Record for it. So they're 34 days, and I've heard about a guy who did it. He started off with 3 guys and ended up just himself, and he did it in 27 days. And I've just heard about a guy who did it a few years ago and did it in 21 days, 3 hours or something, so, but only the 14,000 mile version. So that's what I'm going to aim for, under 21 days. Yeah, I've got everything I need, but now I've got to do a couple of hours work, which is what the other guys didn't do. They didn't make a film or write a book. This is what I do most nights when I can, anyway. And me podcasts and me writing and stuff like that, and edit the film. Here we go. I have just arrived on the outskirts of Tucson, 820 miles. And I feel more than good, almost heightened. Feel fantastic, must be the adrenaline. Jackanory, or comic book hero.
Dalton, you're in Tombstone, Arizona, and you're more than welcome. Come on and see us, man, and come find me and I'll make sure you have a good time. It's a great town, man, old 1880s town, great town. And where, you know, if you guys don't come pretty soon, it's gonna die, and then I don't like cockroaches, and that's all that'll be left, me and them. So come see me. Come see me, I'll make sure you have a good time, and the only thing you gotta pay me is attention, ladies and gentlemen, that's all. I'll tell you everything I know about this place, and I've forgotten more than most people will ever even remember.
As a young man, looking up at the roof of my tent, unable to move, sometimes on the edge of not being able to breathe properly, it was panic. It took years to overcome such fears. the tent became a silent, soundproof insulation chamber, and all that I could hear would be the thrashing of tent flaps and a murmur of madness decanting into a stiff breeze. In that world, it was like being in a diving bell. It was a void in the epicenter of something almost dreamlike.
An awful lot for me to be like this, but at least I know we're going to go into another day, and that's the most important thing.
This is one of those evenings when you actually write you're a forward or you're obituary. I had a really bad day early on today. I got sunstroke and I was wearing my leathers, and maybe I wasn't drinking enough, and my core temperature was just exploding. My face went bright red and I was in a bad way. And it took me nearly 3 hours to get the temperature back down to almost a safe level really. I wasn't coping. The temperatures today were nearly 41, 43 degrees centigrade. And going through Hyderabad was probably one of the worst motoring experiences I've had for a very long time. The road surface is very good. There are no potholes, so I can rely on the fact that there's nothing underneath my wheels that's going to trip me up. No, it's going well. I'm feeling good. I don't know where I stand in terms of the record. I think I'm obviously going to be working like stink, and I'm still going to lose time whilst I'm in India. But India is the one. India is the one which gives me that great credibility. It gives this journey the real challenge. It puts the challenge into the whole event. If you can do India, you can do anything.
And here's the señorita. El precioso señorita.
Hola,
Gracias, señorita.
a usted, saludos.
So the paperwork started. This is where I get the paperwork for the bike so I can import it into Mexico. And very simple process actually. And then once I get through this I can go like the clappers across to all the way down to Chihuahua, Mexico City, and then on to Oaxaca.
So here we are. We've just crossed into from American to the Mexican border, and these guys are going to help me do my paperwork, aren't you guys? So, ça c'est le papier, hein? Le papier. Si, claro. Si. Ça c'est le monsieur. Ça c'est pour la documentation de véhicule, hein?
Yes.
Claro. Muchas gracias. Huh? So there we are. We've got through Mexico really easily, and it's going to be a great journey. Fantastic.
Anatomy of a 2010 adventure was now entering Mexico. I was to ride across the country alone, and mostly at night. It wasn't a prospect I was looking forward to, but adventure has its upsides and also its downsides.
Well, I've just got into Mexico, and I'm on the desert road to Llanos and on to Chihuahua, and everyone says it's a safer route to go down to Chihuahua and onto Mexico City as opposed to going further west to Hermosillo and down the west coast of Mexico. And there's nothing here, there's no towns, villages or people, it's absolutely a desert. It's a very twisty two-lane road, and there are lots of trucks, so that'll keep the mileage or the average speed down. But it's nice to be in Mexico at last. I feel quite good and strong, and the bike's working very well, so it's good.
How often have I asked myself why it was necessary to go on journeys? Was it to search for something so intangible that it might not exist? Maybe it was a daft idea in the first place, all those years ago, to adventure so much. Physicists also ask the impossible, but they do it very well, and mathematicians deal with our imaginary numbers. But out here, emotionally, it's sometimes a hard nut to crack.
I'm at the Mexican border now, about to cross into Guatemala, and this is the start of all the bureaucratic paperwork. Going through Central America is a nightmare. You're in and out of countries all day. Oh well, it's a big fatty job. The rivers are raging all over Guatemala. All the bridges are down. It's been like this for months. The rain has been ceaseless. In the northern part of the country where it joins Honduras, all the bridges are down. So now I've had to actually reroute my journey through El Salvador. With a bit of luck, I might be able to make time. Yes, you've got to get a photocopy for this and a photocopy for that, and stamp your passport here, get your bike fumigated, and then go to the Aduani and sort your thing out there, and oh god, I hate it. And this is where all the photocopies go. You go to the man here who's handling all the photocopiers. He's in charge of photocopies.
Whilst I waited for my photocopies, I sat down for a cup of tea, and later bumped into a bloke up the road who talked about bikes.
And now I know that there's people around the world that wants to be part of that adventure, and I'm always riding my bike. That's my hobby, you know. And I was wondering, when can I go and have some like a nice trip, you know, during Central America, probably, I don't know. I'm figuring around right now. Yeah.
And now we're in El Salvador immigration. I haven't been asked for any photocopies yet. Only a matter of time, I suppose.
Mire, ve, aquí
cerca, está bien.
So this is the border post at El Salvador. I'm now leaving El Salvador and I'm going to go on to Honduras. I'm going to one of those days when I'm going through about 3 or 4 different countries all in the same afternoon. And there's Mr. Moustache. Hello, Mr. Moustache.
I was getting confused now. Roads looked the same, and so did the countries. I mean, does Guatemala look that much different to Honduras? Mind you, I suppose the Hondurans would disagree. But jungle's jungle, isn't it?
And this is the passport control in El Salvador. No, it's the entry point for Honduras. Haha, I thought so. Photocopier. Look, see? Yes. See. Go see. Go on, you have to see. And here we are, Monsieur le photocopier. See, there's his photocopier. You know, in the land of duplication, the photocopier is king.
There are times at night when the traffic's all gone home and there's no one on the road. The journey is so quiet and almost serene. It gives you time to think, or not. My third expedition up the Americas was when I led 22 riders from Ushuaia north to Alaska. And in the far south on Tierra del Fuego, we started having
He
problems.
fell asleep in the car and then he started to drive because he was driving sleeping. So.
Ya enseguida traen el agua hirviendo, así con esa agua esterilizada lo van a... Well, he's the owner of this place and he had an accident in the car, he tipped it over. Good luck he was wearing the seatbelt and the airbag did also his job, so I think it's only minor crashes in his head. Now it's a plane coming with medical support to help him, but Caroline will take care and will make him comfortable.
You can see from the side of his head that he's hit his head against something quite hard and the skin is split open. So there's a series of small splits. I just need to see if they're deep or if they're shallow. If they're shallow, we can probably just leave them. But if they're deep, he may need a little stitch.
Quite a large cut. I'll have a look at that in a brighter light in a minute. Oh, a series of cuts. Okay. Because the skin has split. Multiple splits. That's where all the blood's come from.
Caroline was looking after a local car crash casualty. Later, Dr. C talks about my guide Eric hitting a cow.
On the way back from Puerto Marino, having taken John to a hotel bed because he could hardly walk, riding back in the ute with Savannah and Eric in front, when suddenly out of absolutely nowhere he hit a cow. I heard the thud. In fact, I saw the cow about a split second before he hit it. And the bike went down. There was bits of glass and bits of bike flying absolutely everywhere. Silvana was semi-conscious and Eric couldn't move. The bike was lying on top of them. Obviously Eric was quite distressed when he heard me calling Silvana's name and she wasn't responding. But we managed to lift up the bike and get them out and assess the injuries. And as we were trying to sort of walk Eric away from there to take him into the warmth of the ute, he had a faint, a vasovagal, which was a bit frightening for everybody, but we got him on the ground again, got his legs up, and he's fine.
Fotocopia.
Photocopier.
Fotocopia. Fotocopia esto. Fotocopia.
Once again, myself and my film crew were setting up shots on the equator.
And I go from here to here. That's it, that'll do. Right, okay, whoops. Just tripped over the equator. Just tripped over the equator.
My solo ride down the Americas was doing my head in. I'd lost my maps and quite frankly didn't know where I was going. I distinctly remember the Pan American Highway being bigger than this.
Just when I'm trying to make up some ground, you know, and catch up with some time, I take not even a shortcut across, you know, the lower part of the Andes, you know, on the way to Machala. But, you know, on the map, the road's good. And then, of course, there's construction, and it turns into this. Oh, crikey, you know, I've just lost another 100 miles.
Eventually, I found a bigger road to ride on, so I took it, and for an hour I ended up going the wrong way, which was annoying. So I turned around and carried on with my record-breaking journey.
Well, I had 2 hours sleep last night at a mate's place in Ambato. Him and his wife, Roberto and his wife, just found me on the side of the road and, you know, gave me a bath and some food, which is great. Anyway, I got out of the out of Ecuador easy enough. It took about 5 minutes. Now I've just got to get into Peru. It shouldn't take long, and then I can bat through the rest of the afternoon and also through the night. Yeah, good. I think we're making progress at last.
In southern Peru and on the way to Chile, I changed my tyres in a local tyre place. Ouch.
I had a terrible time across the desert. Oh, it's just so tiring. It took me 5 hours to do the 300 kilometers across the desert from Puera to Chiclayo, and I should have done it in 2. But I think the exhaustion of the project has kicked in, and I'm really feeling it now. It's hard riding through the night, but night miles are very valuable because that's what adds up to a high mileage. That's what's necessary. And we've gone through the night again, even though I have slept beside my bike again. We're going on towards Trujillo and Lima, and then if we can make 3/4, if not the full length of Peru, we'll be at the Chilean border by, who knows, maybe tonight.
Each year, I run a bike tour in Morocco, and this time we took camels into the Sahara. Not as fast as an R1 for sure, but at least they don't get bogged down in the sand, and they don't need a starter motor. The travel writer Maupassant writes, "The journey is a door through which one goes out of the known reality and steps into another, unexplored reality, resembling a dream. Deserts are like that. They definitely give you time to think.
What makes a desert crossing like this actually possible is there are clay urns in small little places like this, which are obviously well shaded, right in the heart of the Nubian desert. The water's been brought in from the Nile and it's really cool. It's really cold and it's great.
In northern Chile and struggling to stay on a 22-day schedule to break the record for the fastest ride down the Americas. I had my camera stolen, so couldn't film anymore. I lost an hour here and there, lost time writing, and yes, filming the project. But perhaps the hardest bit down to the far south was now in bad weather, and the truth of it was that I knew I'd missed getting the record by a few hours. It was a heartbreaking decision, but I decided to stop and try again another time. Look, it's like a bike racer. You have a bad day and you don't win. Then the next week you feel better and you do. It's just the same for me. But earlier in the year, I did make it to the far south. But then I was leading a group of 22 other riders. Yes, things were hotting up on Argentina's most famous road, Route 40. Like Route 66 in the USA, Route 40 is full of legend and the stories from heroes who have attempted to ride along it. In the deep south, 2 days north of Ushuaia, the wind strength rose to 80 miles an hour and we were struggling to stay upright. One thing's for sure, when I look at bikers on my trips, I think of them as some kind of warrior for their cause, whatever that is. But they're out there all right, battling the elements, sorting things out in their heads, or crashing. You know what I mean. But this is what this story is about. It's about an ordinary biker just doing his thing, again and again. Nothing more or less. Not difficult, not important. And it really is as simple as that, innit?
Oh, blimey. This naughty little thing's got his head stuck in a Coke can. Oh, poor little thing. I think this requires a rescue mission. I don't know how we're going to do it though. Fancy getting his head stuck in a Coke can. Oh.
great. Well, I missed him, but I got the Coke. Oh, great. I saved one of those little things. Whatever it was. A lizard. A iguana. Oh.